For decades, millions of American travelers have explored Asia, drawn by famous destinations like Japan's precision, Thailand's nightlife, Vietnam's history, and Indonesia's spirituality. Yet again and again, one country leaves a deeper, more emotional mark. Americans return home not just with photos, but with stories that linger for years, stories of warmth, generosity, and unexpected human connection. That country is the Philippines, a place where kindness is not an act, but a way of life. Many Americans struggle to explain it at first. They say Filipinos feel different. Not just polite, not just friendly, but genuinely caring. Tourists describe being treated like family rather than customers. They talk about smiles that feel sincere, conversations that feel personal, and help that comes without expectation. These aren't scripted hospitality gestures. They are real moments that leave visitors asking one question: why are Filipinos this kind? Jason, an American traveler, experienced this kindness minutes after landing in Cebu. Exhausted and confused, he worried about finding his hotel. His taxi driver noticed immediately. Instead of dropping him off and leaving, the driver walked him inside, helped him speak to the receptionist, waited until he was safely checked in, and refused extra payment. Smiling, he said simply, "Welcome to the Philippines." That moment stayed with Jason forever. For Jason, that interaction set the tone for the entire trip. It wasn't about money or service, it was about care. He realized that in the Philippines, kindness often appears quietly and without drama. No one was watching. No reward was expected. It was simply the natural thing to do. Many American tourists say this is when they first understand Filipino hospitality is sincere, not transactional. Emily, another American traveler, had her own awakening in Quezon City. Lost and staring at her phone, she was approached by a Filipino family who noticed her confusion. They didn't just point directions. They walked her nearly 10 minutes to her destination, offered water, and checked if she was okay. Before leaving, they even gave her their contact information. Emily later said she'd never experienced that level of care from strangers. Americans often say Filipino kindness feels spontaneous. It happens naturally, without hesitation. In the United States, people are friendly, but often busy, cautious, or distant. In the Philippines, people pause their day to help. They ask questions, listen closely, and act immediately. For many Americans, this level of warmth feels almost shocking at first, then deeply comforting. Some tourists experience Filipino kindness during difficult moments. When typhoons hit or power goes out, foreigners expect fear and chaos. Instead, they witness calm resilience. During Typhoon Odette, American tourists shared stories of hotel staff sharing food for free, neighbors checking on them, and drivers offering rides without payment. Even children smiled and waved. In hardship, Filipinos showed unity, humor, and emotional strength. This resilience leaves a powerful impression. Americans often say Filipinos laugh through hardship, not because they ignore pain, but because they face it together. It's a kind of emotional toughness mixed with optimism. Visitors realize that Filipino kindness isn't dependent on comfort or wealth. It exists even when people have little, making it feel deeper and more authentic. When Americans are invited into Filipino homes, the experience becomes unforgettable. Food is always offered, even when resources are limited. Hosts insist guests eat more, laugh louder, and feel comfortable. Conversations flow easily, and visitors are treated like relatives. One American backpacker in Davao said he felt like he'd joined a family celebration, even though he'd met the group only hours earlier. In Filipino culture, guests are blessings. Hospitality is not optional. It is a value passed through generations. Americans sense this immediately. They feel welcomed, protected, and emotionally included. This sense of belonging is rare for travelers, and it's one reason many Americans say the Philippines feels less like a destination and more like a second home. Another detail Americans always mention is the Filipino smile. It's everywhere. Security guards, vendors, drivers, waiters, everyone smiles. Even accidental encounters are met with apologies and warmth. This constant friendliness creates a sense of safety and peace. Tourists say they feel less like outsiders and more like familiar faces, even in crowded cities like Manila. Many Americans also notice how Filipinos look out for foreigners. Locals warn tourists about unsafe areas, return lost items, and guide them honestly. Vendors discourage overpricing, drivers suggest cheaper routes, and strangers say, "Ingat, be careful." One American visiting a rough neighborhood said locals didn't just give directions. They escorted him personally to ensure his safety. This protectiveness surprises many visitors. Filipinos treat foreigners the way they treat family members, watching over them quietly without making a scene. Americans often say this makes them feel genuinely cared for, not just tolerated. It's a subtle but powerful form of kindness that builds trust almost instantly. Filipino generosity is especially striking because it's not tied to wealth. In rural areas, Americans share stories of families offering food, water, shelter, and help despite having little themselves. One traveler in Palawan was welcomed into a home after his motorcycle broke down. He received lunch, a place to rest, and a ride to a mechanic, without being asked for anything in return. When that traveler tried to offer money, the family refused. They simply wanted him to enjoy the Philippines. That moment, he said, changed how he viewed kindness forever. Many Americans describe Filipino generosity as pure, help given because someone needs it, not because something is expected back. Filipinos also love sharing their culture. When Americans show curiosity, locals respond with excitement. They teach tourists words like salamat, invite them to try local food, explain traditions, and celebrate interest in their heritage. Americans say Filipinos don't just share culture, they celebrate when others appreciate it. Even Filipino humor plays a role. Locals tease affectionately, calling Americans pogi, beautiful, or joking about food and rice. The humor is light, inclusive, and never mean-spirited. Tourists often laugh and feel instantly connected. One American joked that he gained 20 cousins in a single day. When Americans fall sick, Filipino kindness becomes deeply personal. Tourists share stories of strangers buying medicine, cooking soup, or checking in daily. A surfer in Siargao who caught dengue said a local family visited him every day, bringing food and praying for him. He said it felt like having a second family. These experiences reveal the Filipino heart, warm, open, and emotionally expressive. Kindness is not hidden or restrained. It is shown openly through words, actions, and presence. Americans describe it as genuine and deeply human, something that touches them long after the trip ends. These qualities come from strong cultural roots, family bonds, community spirit, respect, and resilience. Filipinos grow up learning to help, share, and care for others. This creates a society where kindness feels natural rather than exceptional. Many Americans say they forget the exact places they visited, but never forget the people. Emotional memories last longer than landmarks. A smile, a helping hand, a shared meal, these moments stay alive in the heart. Stories spread online. A lost passport returned intact, a surprise birthday party thrown for a stranger, a tricycle driver refusing payment during heavy rain. These stories shape how Americans see the Philippines, not as just a tropical destination, but as a country filled with heart. Because of this, many Americans return again and again. They come back to reconnect with people who once helped them, welcomed them, or cared for them. The Philippines becomes a place of emotional return, not just travel. American tourists don't just visit the Philippines, they connect. They build friendships, share laughter, and feel embraced. The kindness feels real because it is lived every day, not performed for visitors. That is why Americans say Filipinos are the kindest people in Asia. Because Filipino kindness is not learned, it is lived. It turns strangers into family, hardship into unity, and travel into lasting connection. And when Americans leave, they carry something priceless with them, a piece of the Filipino heart.